Good morning, students. Hope you all are well. So, in our previous class, we have started this chapter, circulatory system, and today we'll discuss about the cellular elements of our blood. Okay, so you know that cellular elements means all the cells of our blood. Okay, so we have three types of cells, that is red blood cells or erythrocyte, white blood cells or leukocytes, and platelets or the thrombocytes. Okay, so let's start about this red blood cell. So they are basically the oxygen carriers, and sometimes they also carry carbon dioxide also. So red blood cells are also called erythrocytes. Erythros means the color red. These are very minute structure. They are disc shaped in nature and they are biconcave in structure. Okay, so this figure number 1, that is the red blood cell. Okay, so they are very small, about 7 micron in diameter, and the small size plus the concavities on these two sides, you can see in these two sides the cavities are there, so it gives a large surface area, okay, which make it very easy to absorb more oxygen. Okay, so for its biconcave structure, it can absorb more oxygen because it has a large surface area. And the small size also enables the red blood cell to travel through very thin and very fine capillaries in our body. Okay, so in adult human there are 5 million RBC are present per cubic millimeter of blood, and an adult female has slightly less, about 4.5 million of RBCs. Next is the hemoglobin. Okay, so it is our respiratory pigment which is present inside our RBC. So the red blood cells have a colorless spongy body or stroma which contains the respiratory pigment, that is hemoglobin or Hb. Okay, so we can divide the hemoglobin into two parts. First part is heme, okay, means the iron containing part, and the second part, that is the globin part, that means a protein part. So heme plus protein, it combines and form hemoglobin. That means the iron containing part and the protein containing part, they combines and form this respiratory pigment, that is hemoglobin. So this hemoglobin has the ability to bind with oxygen. So when it binds with oxygen, hemoglobin plus oxygen, it forms oxyhemoglobin. Okay, but it is an unstable compound which really gives off oxygen to the needy tissues, because we have to transport and we have to give the oxygen, right, to different cells and to different tissues. And carbon dioxide can carry a very small quantity of carbon dioxide also. Hemoglobin can carry a very small quantity of carbon dioxide also in the form of carbaminohemoglobin. Okay, so when carbon dioxide react with hemoglobin, it forms carbaminohemoglobin. Hemoglobin is very strong. Hemoglobin has a very strong affinity for carbon dioxide, and it is a stable compound for carboxyhemoglobin. Okay, that is HbCO. So hemoglobin has a very strong affinity for carbon monoxide and also for carbon dioxide. So when carbon monoxide combines with hemoglobin, it forms carboxyhemoglobin. Okay, oxygen plus hemoglobin, oxyhemoglobin, carbon dioxide plus hemoglobin, carbaminohemoglobin, and carbon monoxide plus hemoglobin, that is carboxyhemoglobin, HbCO. So that this actually reduce the capacity of the blood of transporting oxygen, and sometimes it results in death. So this is known as carbon monoxide poisoning. Like for example, sleeping near any burning furnaces in small rooms without any ventilation, so it can result in carbon monoxide poisoning in our body, because it forms that carboxyhemoglobin in our body, and it may even cause death. So one fact is there that is it correct to say that veins carry carbon dioxide, no oxygen? Because It is actually not. Veins carry the oxygen, but only a little less than the arteries. Means in the arteries the amount of oxygen containing blood is high, but in the veins the amount of oxygen containing blood is very less, but the carbon dioxide content means the carboxygenated blood is higher. Okay, so inside the lungs hemoglobin becomes 97 to 99% saturated with oxygen, and inside the respiring tubes that hemoglobin releases about 23% of its oxygen, and the blood returning in veins still contains about 75% oxygen. Okay? So in veins there is less amount of oxygen, but oxygen is present there. Next is life and death of RBC. So in adults the RBCs are produced from bone marrow. Okay, so RBCs are produced from bone marrows of long bones, especially in the ribs, breastbone, and the ilium of hip girdle. These are the strong and long bones. So so these are formed in case of adults, but in case of embryo they are produced in the liver and spleen. In children the RBCs are produced in bone marrow of all bones until 5 years of age, from all bones. The mature red blood cells have no nucleus, but when they begin to produce they have one nucleus. Okay, so as they mature the nuclei are lost, and they become enucleated. That means nucleus is absent there. Okay, now the average lifespan of RBCs is about 120 days, and the old and weak red blood cells are destroyed in the spleen, liver, and bone marrow. Okay, and their iron part is retained in the liver, while the rest part is excreted as a bile pigment in the form of bilirubin. Okay. In a normal adult, approximately 2 million RBCs are destroyed every second. 2 millions of RBCs are destroyed every second, and in other words we can say that about 1% of the total erythrocytes in the body are destroyed every day. Okay, now in mammalian cell, actually see the RBCs does not contain the nucleus and the mitochondria also, but how they are very efficient, or they are very much responsible for transporting the oxygen, or they are the most important cells of our blood cell. So let's see. So mammalian red blood cells when mature circulate in the blood system and are devoid of some organelles. So which organelles are not present there? Nucleus, mitochondria, and endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, nucleus, mitochondria, and endoplasmic reticulum. So these three cell organelles, or these three organelles are not present in in red blood cell. So thus, though deficient of above all these organelles, the mature red blood cell are very efficient in carrying out their task, that means picking up and delivering oxygen. So how? First is the loss of nucleus. So loss of nucleus makes the red blood cell biconcave, and thus increasing the surface area and the volume at the same time, so that they can absorb more oxygen. Okay, so the space in between, as see in this figure, as nucleus is not present here, so the middle structure, or the space in between, that increased. Okay, and that increased the surface area also, and more RBC can accumulate in the same space. Next is the loss of mitochondria. So it means the red blood cells cannot use oxygen for themselves, because in mitochondria only cellular respiration are present there. So if mitochondria are not present there, so no such use of oxygen in case of cellular respiration will occur in red blood cell. So thus all oxygen absorbed from lungs is transported and delivered to the tissues where they are required. And secondly, the loss of mitochondria also gives full transport of glucose in blood plasma. which are also not used by RBCs. And then next, that is the endoplasmic reticulum. No presence of endoplasmic reticulum, that means it increases the flexibility of RBCs for their own for their movement through the narrow capillaries. Okay, and whenever there is abnormal increase in RBCs, it is called that polycythemia, and whenever there is abnormal decrease in RBC, that is known as the erythropenia. Okay, anemia or erythropenia, like this. So next is our white blood cell. Okay, so it is also known as leukocytes. Leuko means white, that means it differs from the red blood cell in two things, that they are having nucleus and they don't have the hemoglobin. So the number is generally quite less from the RBCs, that is 4000 to 8000 per millimeter cube. Okay, so you can see this diagram, figure number 8.3. A white blood cell is oozing out of the blood vessel, that is called the diapedesis. So when through the blood capillaries, when the blood flows through the capillaries, this white blood cell, they are having a pseudopodia like movement. Okay, and they make a pore and they moves from the capillary wall. Okay, so they ooze out from the capillary wall. So that process is known as diapedesis. Okay, so based on the shape and other characteristics, the white blood cells can be classified into main two types. One is the granular and other is the non-granular. So what is the origin of this WBCs? So they are actually produced in the red bone marrow and lymph nodes, and sometimes in liver and spleen. So the average lifespan of the WBCs are 2 weeks, and the neutrophils, they live for only a few hours. Neutrophil is a special type of WBC, and about 125 billions of neutrophils are produced each day. Okay, now leukemia, you know, it is the blood cancer. So it is a cancer of tissues forming WBCs whose number are increasing uncontrollably and at the cost of RBCs. Okay, so it is usually a fatal disease. Currently this treatment sometimes can be done by the blood transfusion. Okay, that means leukemia means it is blood cancer. Okay, and leukopenia means it is the abnormal decrease in the WBC level. It is a increase in the WBC cells. Now what are the functions of this WBCs? Okay, first is the phagocytosis. So this is actually the process by which the WBCs, and mainly the WBCs and particularly the neutrophils, they engulf the particle like solid substances and especially the bacteria. Okay, so suppose a bacteria is coming or suppose a bacteria is present in our body fluid, and the WBC cells or the neutrophils, they recognize the bacteria and they engulf the whole bacteria. Okay, so this is the defensive mechanism against the germ, and so this process is known as phagocytosis, that engulfing any germs or engulfing any kind of bacteria. Next is the second point, that is the inflammation. Okay, so inflammation generally occurs due to the reactions of tissues to injury and to the localized invasion of germs. The inflamed spot has several characteristics like it causes redness, heat, swelling, pain where the injury has happened. Okay, so here the leukocytes, especially the monocytes and the neutrophils, they migrate through the walls of the blood vessels by the process of diapedesis. Okay, and fight against the disease causing germs. So they also destroy the damaged cells by the process of phagocytosis. And push is mainly composed of the dead white blood cells together with the tissue cells destroyed by the bacteria. Okay, suppose if we are having suppose any bee or any wasp, they bite in our hand or any part of our body. So after some time, we at that time or after some time we feel pain and redness and the swelling of that region. So that is actually the inflammation. Okay, that is actually the inflammation, that whenever we are having any injury of a particular tissue, or where there is accumulation of any germs or virus, accumulation of germs or the bacteria, so at that region, that region is inflamed, that shows some characteristics like the heat, redness, swelling and pain. And the WBC cells, means monocyte and the neutrophils, they migrate to that particular region of injury, and they move through the walls of the blood capillaries by the process of diapedesis, and they also causing the disease causing agents to destroy them with the process of phagocytosis. And after the degradation of that virus, of that bacteria or that particular cells, some white blood cells will means the destroyed white blood cell, and along with the bacteria they will release, that is called the push. Next is formation of antibodies. You know that WBC cells are responsible for formation of antibodies in our body, and without antibody we cannot fight against any kind of germs. Okay, so whenever we are taking the vaccines, we introduced in weakened germs or dead germs, okay, during vaccination, to stimulate our immune system, or to stimulate stimulate the formation of particular antibodies. Okay, so we and that antibodies can destroy the disease causing agents in our body. Okay, so these are the functions of leukocytes. Next, you can see here two types of WBC cells are there: granulocytes and agranulocytes. Okay, means granular and non-granular. So what are the granular cells, and why it is called granular? Means in the cytoplasm they contains granules, and nucleus are usually constricted to the lobes. Means not one nucleus is there, they are having one, two or three lobes they are having. Okay, so neutrophil, eosinophil and basophil, these are the granular blood cells. So first diagram, this diagram you can see, this is for the neutrophils. Okay, so neutrophils, they generally have 3 or 4 lobes. Okay, and what is the function? They engulf bacteria by the process of phagocytosis, and the originating site, that is bone marrow. Eosinophil, these are 2 lobe, these are large cytoplasmic granules are present inside the cell. They also engulf the bacteria, they secrete antitoxin, and they are associated with the allergic reaction. Means whenever we are having allergy due to some food, or due to pollen grains and all, so if we test, means if we do our blood test, then we can see that eosinophil level is very high at that time, because eosinophils are associated with the allergic reaction. And the site of production, that is also bone marrow. Basophil, these are large nucleus, okay, and they release the chemical, that is histamine, during inflammation. Okay, histamine during inflammation, and their origin also bone marrow. Next is non-granular, that means in the cytoplasm granules are not present, and they are having a single large nucleus. No such 2 or 3 lobes are present there. One single large nucleus is present there. So there are 2 types, lymphocytes and monocytes. The first is the lymphocyte, that is these are the smallest WBC cells, and one single large nucleus is present at the middle of the cell. Lymphocytes are mainly responsible for the production of antibodies, and they develop from bone marrow and lymph glands. And monocytes, these are large WBC cells. Nucleus is large or kidney shaped. You can see the diagram of the nucleus here. It is kidney shaped. They ingest the germs and means they help to kill the germs.